Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 112 of the Seezus Show. It's your boy, Sir Seezus, and I'm back, and I'm so excited to deliver another fun-filled episode. And today, we got the return of Trade Day XXIV. But before I get into today's house topics, obviously I'd like to take you guys back to memory lane. Last episode, 111, D Sharp and myself discussed the conference finals previews and what's the next steps for Ben Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers and many more subtopics as well too. And also make sure to subscribe on all forms of social media at the Seezus Show, at Sir Seezus. Subscribe, rate, comment, share, do what you gotta do, spread that love, and I continue, to work for you guys as well too. Now, conference finals are over with. We got the NBA finals in action this Tuesday at Phoenix. Phoenix versus Bucks. Big three versus big three. So ecstatic. And I'm honestly ready to just get into today's hottest topics. So before we get into today's hottest topics, once again, let's make some noise for my boy, for my co-host, for the return of no other than Trade Day XXIV. What it do, baby? Let's get it.
What's good, everybody? You already know what's going on. It's your boy back at it again. Not like Daniel with the all white vans, but got some all white ones. You already know what's going on. Some DCs, if you will. If you're from South 5, you understand. You get that. But look, it's your boy Trey Day all day. Back once again. Took some time to live my life. Came right back. You already know it's only the family type deal, you know. So see well, hold it down, you know what I'm saying, and we right back. Sir Caesars, what's good with you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling great. I'm more excited right now. You can see I'm cheesing. It's been a while since we wrapped up a little bit as well too. So excited for you to be on as well too. I know you've been a little
So
busy, so likewise as well. So I'm ready to. I'm actually before we even start. I know you went to a wedding, man. Tell me about that
okay,
experience because I've only been to weddings from a familiar standpoint, like a first
okay,
cousin. So I never.
okay,
One of my friends, DJ, you may have met him before. I can't really
okay.
remember, but he actually just proposed to his longtime girlfriend. So the wedding's
Sheesh.
gonna be next year in the summertime. So it's gonna be my first friend wedding that I'm actually gonna be attending as well too. So how was the wedding, man?
Man, it was dope. It was dope. It was like somebody that grew to be my sister. And I'll give the end of the podcast to actually shout them out. But just as far as the wedding goes, um, somebody is like my sister, man, and she found love with her significant other, and it's just a really beautiful union. They were there to lean on each other. They were there to, just I kind of saw it kind of organically happen through like the last few years because I've been like, you know, since that kind of inception, a little bit before them, I've been friends with the girl that grew to be my sister, and she married her person, and it was like, yo, like just kind of seeing. I saw the good. I got texts when it was bad. I got texts when it was great, so on and so forth. So really, just kind of seeing that union, seeing the principles that you have to work on to like kind of sustain that, and as we go into it and seeing like when the rubber hits the road, kind of seeing everything that will transpire. But really, my thoughts when I was like kind of seeing there, being there, was just like, man, like I'm here for a reason. She because we like we're family and stuff like that. But it's just like I'll be there to hold those people down. If they need something, even if they're like ready to choke each other or having the best of times. We were there to witness it and I guess not to get too deep because everybody's like, oh, it's my relationship, whatever, like that, or things like that. But when you really have like type of family environment, you just there to support them. You know how life comes and such on, and like we're embarking on a chapter of life that is new to us. As we so do. So it's like, yo, like I just can't wait to be there to support them and whatever kind of happens. Like if I have the means to do so, and I know they're going to support me regardless by being one union now. So it's looking at it a little bit differently. Conventional marriage per se, how they kind of marriage was a certain thing for a certain people, and how we're kind of flipping, like our generation is just flipping everything on its head and kind of making it for what it is meant to be, as you would think about it, and so on and so forth. But I can get more into details a little bit later. But it was just really, really dope, man. great venue, all that stuff like that. So we had a great time,
I mean, that's all that matters. And like you said, it was organic. And they went through their trials and tribulations, but they're soulmates. So
man.
I
Hell
love
yeah,
it. I respect it. Maybe
hell yeah,
one day, I have my soulmate. So
yeah. I can't
you
wait for that
know,
one. I can't wait.
that's gonna be pretty grand. That's gonna be pretty grand, man. But yeah, so we can move forward, get straight into the topics as well too.
Yes, sir.
So the first thing I want to talk about is Miss Rachel Nichols, who has been all over social media these past couple of days. It became more prominent, I'd say, yesterday on a Sunday on July 4th as well too. So to give you guys a little bit of backstory, Rachel Nichols basically kind of there's been some things in ESPN that's been under the wrap, right? So basically, like when everything happened last year, so COVID, and then just all the injustices that were going on around George Floyd and whatnot as well too. NBA players, media, all of them decided to go to the bubble, come back in July and whatnot as well too. So once Rachel kind of got to the bubble, she was kind of informed that her colleague Maria Taylor, an African American, would be hosting the 2020 NBA Finals because, um, because she's a baller. You know, what I'm saying she's just been on the rise and she's been doing her thing. But Rachel Nichols called backlash because she felt like ESPN was feeling pressured to basically allow her to cover the finals because of the color of her skin, her being an African American female. So some excerpts from Rachel Nichols. I wish Maria Taylor all the success in the world. She covers football. She covers basketball. Nichols said back then, July 2020. It's funny, it's July now again. If you need to give her more things to do because you're feeling pressure about your crappy long-time record on diversity, which is, by the way, I know personally from the female side of it, like, go for it. Just find it somewhere else. You're not going to find it from me or take my thing away. So this was July 13th of 2020, and she had a leaked tape. I don't know if it was from like Microsoft Teams through Zoom. I don't know what platform NBA uses, but it was with Adam Mendelson, who is a longtime advisor of LeBron James and Rich Paul as well too. So Rachel Nichols was speaking basically with Mendelson to request an interview with James and his Lakers teammate Anthony Davis. So basically, whenever she gets an interview with these guys, it kind of makes sense now. She goes through him to get those interviews, and she also
Yeah.
was seeking advice from him as well too. So another excerpt was, I just want them to go somewhere else. It's in my contract, by the way. This job is in my contract in writing, Nichols said, and told Mendelson, referring to hosting the coverage during the NBA Finals a few minutes after saying ESPN was feeling the pressure, was feeling pressure about racial diversity as well too. And a lot of employees were outraged because that kind of just confirmed how outwardly supportive white people talk differently to their peers when a black person or a person of color is in the room as well too. So it's not shocking to me in general. I mean, I don't really know the individual like that, but I don't know about you, but sometimes you can just feel that weird energy when you're watching something. So I've always felt that weird energy, but I want to just, turn this completely over to you because it's been a while since we had a rant from Trader XXIV himself. What are your thoughts on all this that has been going down? Let me know what you're thinking.
Less rant, more discussion. But hey, I tried to break it down into some layers. I was like thinking about it, um, and I tried to be unobjective, objective. Here's my spill on it. Let's start here. Let's start one. Um, it's a human emotion, and it's understandable when you see somebody that gets an opportunity that you may usually have. All right. Understood. Right. So, hey, I every day, I, what, I'm water boy for the Lakers. You know what I'm saying? And every day I get to put their shoes out, put their jerseys out. And after that, I get to maybe get first dibs at the Chick-fil-A. You know what I'm saying? First dibs Chick-fil-A. And I take pride in that. I get paid $50 million to do that because I'm the Lakers water boy. I'm rich. I'm rich. So bet, you know what I'm saying? So bet. And then somebody comes, Seawell comes and says, hey, look, the company says, look, Sewell, we're just kind of, we need to, kind of switch it up a little bit. So instead of you doing that today, we're gonna have Sewell doing it. You know what I'm saying? I would feel some type of way. So understandable human emotion to feel some type of way about that. That's an understanding. I get it. I get PC culture, but at the same time, whether you're black, white, or whatever like that, somebody tells you, comes up and say, hey, they're gonna do your job, or hey, that person's gonna start over you. You're gonna feel some type of way. You're gonna have voice your frustration. Okay, granted, this is a private conversation, so on and so forth. Let's continue. Okay, so we have the person, we have the human emotion. Let's talk about the structure of kind of ESPN, and I'll tie that back into some other stuff. Um, or just the structure in general of everything that's going on, right? We literally saw a man sit on another man's neck and kill him as he was begging for his life, and pandemics happening. It was a lot of pent up energy. It was so much happening last year. And we were trying to get back to entertainment, trying to get back to basketball. Things were going on. So, but you couldn't do it the same way. You had to, if you were a company moving forward, that was such a year of revealing. It's like, oh, like we're not doing the same stuff. Oh, we're not going to take this. Like nobody wants to do the same thing. People are calling people out under a bull stuff, under a bullish. Definitely corporations. And if we've seen with Jamil Hill, so on and so forth, like ESPN being Disney and being, as sports become adult and become real, it's been tough for them to bridge that. It's been super tough. But then you get into taboo. You have your, hey, Trump supported Make America Great Again. You have again the Jamil Hill thing where he was saying, what did she tell him? He called the president stupid or something like that. She said Donald Trump is a racist, and don't quote me on it, but something along those lines, saying, hey, he's a bigot, he's prejudiced, whatever like that. They didn't like it, got rid of her. Already you're off to a really bad start. So you're coming from fifth place trying to get to first place, ESPN, because you're doing the numbers, but people don't want to hear you because you're too PC, or because you shy away from these actual issues because you just want to play sports or have people shut up and dribble, whatever like that. It's not working. You have to address some of these things. And that's the thing I'll get to in a little bit too. I'll keep this quick. But again, you're not in the lead. You're not in the lead at all. Boom. All right. So we got to switch it up. All right. Hey, Keen, we're getting Maria Taylor to do this for Rachel Nichols. So you put them in a very interesting position. And here's where it gets deeper from a personal level. Maria Taylor, there was a clip with Jalen Williams saying, "Oh, if that's the case, then Maria Taylor deserves a ring or whatever like that, or a raise, instead of raise." And she like shot away from him because she knew the structure that be. Going back to the structure, Maria Taylor is qualified. She's qualified. She can do all these things and more. She does football. There's a long list of things Maria Taylor does and does well. So it's not like she's not qualified for this position. It's not like she can't have this position. It's just that when sports, and maybe in broadcast, as we know, if there's a spot, it's hard to get people to move out the spot. People get old, grow old, and they'll die with those spots because they enjoy doing it. Nobody can do it better than them, and they're going to get paid for it. They're going to get compensated well for it. So Rachel Nichols was feeling that pressure. Goes back into the, hey, well, I don't mind it. I know business is as good as anything. That, hey, she's good. I wish her the best, but just not over here. Like, if you want to find her something to do, find her something to do somewhere else. And then that comment speaks to the structure that we'll stay on Black women. I don't want to even, you don't have to take it further, but that Black women have to fight in a corporate situation, in a promotional situation. It's not saying, hey, this every day is tough for me, and it's tougher because they're in that position. But it's saying that, hey, if I wanted to make a move or do something, there's so many factors that will work against me from a structural standpoint that it takes a miracle, because that's the mindset you have to come back. It's not, hey, are you qualified? Which, you say majority, but a person that works within the structure and in the representation that get hired more quickly. All they have to say is that, am I qualified for it? Bet. I'm surefire going to get a job. For Black women, for Maria Taylor, and for other possible minority groups, it's all right. Is it the right timing? Am I qualified? I'm overqualified. How can I even get more qualified? Who can I have to I talk to about this? Who don't I have to piss off? There's so many people that you can have enemies or whatever like that and still get jobs, whatever, and cool. But for Maria Taylor, she can't piss off this person, and she's low key pissed off Rachel Nichols just for being qualified. That's the structure. You know what I'm saying? That's the structure that we're going against. That's the thing that is grinding bolts. So you got ESPN as a structure that, as the last few, we haven't seen them handle things pretty well. They're trying to adapt on the fly with a structure and a culture that they weren't ready to change. They're having to change it for monetary reasons. You had to go to the bubble. Oh, George Floyd happened. Oh man, we got to scramble to get this right. Instead of just being about it and being a good person, stay ready, saying you got to get ready. Instead of uplifting people and instead of putting people of different backgrounds and different areas to succeed and so on and so forth, now we're scrambling because of a years long structure and what's the word I'm looking for, and just systematic kind of thing. So you're like, damn, like what am I doing? So you have comments like this that come up, and again, rather than even Rachel Nichols, it just speaks to the mindset that people have. So if she has that, and the next person has that, and the next person, the next person, the next person, that maybe, I know people can be their own person, stuff like that, but that's a vein. That's a vein. Rachel Nichols is one of the best when it comes to her doing her job. But if somebody that is overly qualified, that does everything, that busts her ass, bends over backwards for that company, does anything they ask her to do, and it's time for her to move up, and that's kind of the stuff that she's combated with. We see it every day, not just in ESPN, but in corporate America, private America, boom, 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 and home buying and all that stuff like that. You have to be so much more, and you have to be nice. You have to try not to piss anybody off. You have to walk on eggshells, and that's not existing. That's really just sustaining. That's sustaining. So you don't you can eat. You know what I'm saying? Like if Rachel Nichols was pissed off enough, she might be able to call somebody and say, "Hey, like we gotta get her out of here," and then boom, she might be out of there. As we've seen it happen to people. Again, this is not foreign. This is just something that now, oh, you hear how people think. Just the whole what Donald Sterling thing. It's like, oh, like we're not surprised by that. I'm sure there's a lot of people with sentiments about that, whether it be NFL, NBA, such and such like that. They talk like that behind closed doors. Because again, revealed is not surprising. It's just that please don't illegitimize our voices when we say, hey, Black Lives Matter, when we say this, that, and the third matters, and say, hey, we're not being listened to, because there's conversations like this that happen when we're not there. And it hurts, and it affects us. It affects us because we can't get a promotion, we can't do this, we can't do that from us feeding our family, which is, hey, you be mean to me all day. As long as I can feed my family, I can figure that out. But if I can't feed my family, if I can't continue to strive for greatness and so on and so forth, because these conversations you have, because of this mindset you have, then the structure is broken, and you can't gaslight me to say, hey, this is a little bit too radical. You need to stop with that. No, that's what's going on. That's how it is. You just don't want it in your face, and which is why you're trying to put it away. But no, the awareness about this, the discussion about this, and the restructuring, the reformation, and the demolition of this broken thing has to come and has to change, and it's changing on the fly, which is why we get comments, why we have recordings like this that come out, because people are not ready. You know what I'm saying? They gotta keep it going. So that's my take on that.
Mm, mm. Fire, fire. Can't wait to get this played back and go to various platforms. So I appreciate that as well too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're gonna see how things unfold. I know she has her daily show, The Jump, if she's gonna address it or whatnot. Probably not, but we're gonna see what's good. Next topic I want to get into: stay off the weed.
Weed.
So the last time me and you talked about someone staying off the weed was Dion Waiters pre-COVID, took the edible on the plane, and then ever since then I don't really know what happened to Mans. But on a serious
Man's not
note,
hot.
on a serious note, for real. So the U.S. track sensation Shakari, hope I'm pronouncing it right, Richardson, who essentially punched their ticket to the Tokyo Games after winning the women's 100-meter race last month, has been suspended for 1 month after testing positive for THC, the chemical in cannabis as well too. Um, another thing where I lean on you for. So this basically broke the news because they're saying like with marijuana, it doesn't enhance your physical abilities as well too. Like this is outdated. Like why are we still testing for this when other people can take other various forms of drugs and kind of still get away with it as well too. So what are your thoughts on everything that happened with her and whatnot?
Um, First, I've been like, I think from the start, I've thought like the Tokyo Olympics. I mean, again, we talk about structures and talking about traditions of just oppression and just kind of like discrimination in some ways. I thought the Tokyo Olympics has been kind of flawed, simply because I think that headline came out and they were like, there can't be any Black Lives Matter, you know, sayings. There can't be any Black Lives Matter protests, anything about that. Like, we don't want any of that here. And if it is, then you got to go. So that was really interesting to see that come out on the heels of all this movement. And I started to think about it, and I was like, a lot of these companies and Olympics as a company, every 4 years, but you make enough money to sustain yourself um, to do it in another 4 years. So there's big bank in this. There's a lot of countries invested, so on and so forth. There's big bank in the Olympics, which is very I won't say Coliseum, but it's very it's one of those traditions that has just been on a long time. I can't find a word for it right now, but I won't say archaic, but it's one of those things that has been going on for a long time. So again, we see a pattern of history and how it kind of just flows, and that's something we could break down later. But how time is less linear and more it remixes with everything that comes with it. And if you don't change something, then it's forever. But so when they say, "Hey, no Black Lives Matter protest," I'm like, they're saying that because they don't want the outrage from the people that really don't think Black Lives Matter, because they have a bigger stake in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't say anything for the people that are being oppressed, um, discriminated against, so on and so forth. We save people for that will affect our bottom line, and we need, whether it be middle American, middle whatever, the line that they don't want to get affected by things uncomfortable, which there's a lot of that demographic in the world that say, hey, I want to turn this on. I just want to see this. I don't want to know what's going on in my backyard. So they had to put that out there because like, oh, we don't want that. We just, no, come on. Can we keep playing? Can we just keep rolling? Can we stop? Not even talk about that right now. We're playing sports. So boom. On to Miss Richardson. Miss Richardson. She's had a tough few weeks. Her biological mother passed away. Not really sure of the relationship, but regardless, it's your biological mother. You're 21 years old. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't know what to do if I lost my mother today, and I'm a little bit older. We're a little bit older. You know what I'm saying? That's not a feeling that you can prepare for anybody. What, losing a loved one, but losing your mother, it's not a feeling that you can prepare for. And just their relationship aside, you don't know how it affected her. You might, she probably maybe wanted a deeper relationship with her mother. She might have had one and they got estranged and then boom, came back, or whatever her situation is with growing up. There's always a caveat to that. On top of, you're putting all your effort and preparation into preparing for the Olympics. So boom, you're on a ride. Now boom, you're an overnight celebrity. All right. So you have cameras in your face, boom, boom, boom. Listening to I won't even say it, but listening, and there was to a podcast, and there was a mention of, all right, so we kind of seen the same thing happen with somebody that was in the limelight, somebody that rose to fame with Naomi Osaka in the U.S. Open. You know, uh, she was like, "Look, my mental health is not really well. You guys want me to come out and do these interviews? I'm not really feeling it. I'm gonna withdraw." And they had a freaking field day. They had a ball, and so I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it the best way I know how. Now with the Olympics, saying, hey, boom, 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 this is a 21-year-old girl, college age. woman. I say woman, extremely age woman. She's college age, all that stuff like that. You just lost your mother. Shoot, at least you didn't turn to like prescription pills and all that stuff like that. Like weed is just something, and you take it in, boom, you do it. All right, cool. Maybe she knew the drug test was coming up. She knew Olympics, cool, whatever, like that. But that hurt and that pain is still not gonna go away. There's those moments in life where it's like, yo, you're maybe in a position to where you could have the best time, but because something in the back of your mind is nagging, it's just like you don't even want to be there at that place or in that position. You know what I'm saying? You're like, yo, like I'm in college, but shoot, you just broke up with your girl and you're hurting, you know what I'm saying? Or this that happened at home, or you got dropped off at welcome week, but you know the situation that your mom is going through, your family's going through back at the crib. So that affects mental health. What do? A lot of people go say, hey, all right, I'm gonna forget about it. I'm gonna go get some drinks. I'm gonna register for these classes, and I'm gonna be faced all week because it's welcome week, and I don't. I know my mom's struggling back home, but I'm here. She put me here. I gotta turn to this, turn to alcohol, turn to drugs, turn to cocaine, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? And this girl turned to this woman, this athlete turned to marijuana. Um, and there's a deeper conversation to be had about marijuana and about testing for marijuana and the job practices um, in this country per se, and we could say all over the world because it is a specific group that you kind of weed out with that. I saw a tweet, I think one of my friends tweeted is like, well, if you test it for cocaine and other stuff, then shit, a good over 50% of the workplace would be out of work. If you went and just tested for cocaine and stuff like that, and it wouldn't be the demographic that you would, that you usually get with marijuana. It would be totally different. You have to get rid of management, CEO, stuff like that. So it's one of those things where, from a structural standpoint, the whole idea of marijuana probably needs some looking into. No, not probably, definitely needs some looking into. With her situation, uh, she seems pretty self-aware, and yo, I did it. All right, cool. If they give me a chance to step back, step back, because maybe, well, not maybe, but definitely her energy, her person, her soul is bigger than this. Maybe she got hooked on prescription meds or pain meds or whatever like that, or something that just took you, I gave you a little bit of high. Say she wanted to go middle of this year, all right, and I think there's rumors that she can come back for the relays, but say she wanted the 100 medal, but say in 3 years she overdosed. You know what I'm saying? Where's the success story in that? There's no success story in that because she never actually got the chance to heal. There wasn't an accurate path or a route for a 20-year-old woman, the youngest she can be, to right that wrong in this space. Because she was overwhelmed with celebrity, she was overwhelmed with standing third. Not to mention that there's other athletes that clearly were smoking weed out in the open, but maybe they did it on an off year or whatever like that. This is kind of nuances. Yes, she broke a rule. All right, cool. And she seems like she's cool with that. Shout out to Nike for sticking by her because Nike's made it some lately too. So shout out to Nike for sticking by her, understanding that. But again, I think this is a setup for even greater, even better comeback rather than her winning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, or like a few years later, um, we losing her to something that was senseless. You know what I'm saying? So that's my take on her. So I hope she heals from a mental, whether physical, spiritual, any holistic heal standpoint, and I hope she could come back and accomplish anything she wants to accomplish, even bigger, badder than ever before when she's actually back. Okay.
For sure. Appreciate it. Now, moving topics, going strictly into basketball now. So before we get into the finals preview, I want to, just touch upon the conference finals previews from each respective conference itself. So I guess the first one we could talk about is the Suns Clippers series. Lived up to the hype, I would have to say. It went 6 games as well too. Obviously, there's no Kawhi Leonard, no Zubac, no Nicholas Batum as well too. Chris Paul missed the first 2 games due to COVID protocols and whatnot as well too. But overall, honestly, it was a pretty solid series. Looking back at it, man, I'm proud of everyone from the Clippers standpoint. Coach Ty Lue, And I'm proud of CP3, Booker, that whole organization from essentially being a team that, you know, had a lottery pick to, you know, in a matter of 1 year, turn that whole franchise around as well too. So good series. I thought I was gonna go. Well, at first, when I was with Daryl, I predicted the Suns winning in six just because of the strength of Kawhi not being there. But um, I mean, if you look back at those first two games, things could have been
Yeah,
slightly different if there wasn't poor officiating on both ends as well too. But I do feel like part of me feels like maybe this is the bias out of me as well too that uh, you know that the Clippers were kind of effed over as well too with the DeAndre Ayton game winner that he hit as well too. For example, he was pulling on Zubac's jersey, but obviously you don't want the game to be determined by something like that of that magnitude. When it's point 0.9 seconds left as well too. But he was holding on to his jersey. Or the play before that, they didn't review it when he touched the ball out of bounds as well too. Or Chris Paul traveled for them to go up 3-1 as well too. Just a lot of things happened for them to kind of win as well too. But overall, it was relatively a very very good series as well too. So turning things over to you and just dissecting things one by one as well too. What does this historic run mean for Chris Paul? The point guard. Finally being able to get that monkey off the back. It's been 16 long ass years, and he
yeah.
finally reached the NBA Finals. What does this mean for Chris Paul and his legacy?
I think it solidifies him as one of the greatest guards ever. Finally, I mean, just touching the finals. I mean, not even with a ring. I think the ring would just put him, whenever his Hall of Fame is classes, he'll be definitely first ballot. I mean, he already was, but things he does, like I think a few games ago he had so many points, so many assists, and no turnovers. It was like range of like 16 or like 20. Like it was crazy. Like the things he does, the way he can command the game, the way he knows how to win. And you hate him. You hate him watching him sometimes if you're going against his team or you see some of the like the actions he does. Just hate like what? But he knows how to work it. He knows how to work the game, work the officials. He knows how to come out on top no matter and that's a competitor. Within the confines of the game. I'm going to test everything because the only thing that matters is me winning. So Chris Paul is that, and for his legacy standpoint, um, 16 long years, and we always thought like, hey, like he probably won't get one, but we still have to regard him as one of the greatest guards. So the conversation was always like, hey, we can't really talk about rings in this discussion because we can't keep Chris Paul in this or whatever like that. But now he just adds his name to that pot. So now he is in this discussion with, no, he's one of the greatest, or if not one of the greatest point guard. That's the true point guard of all time. Can get it done, some scoring, but he can definitely get it done from commanding the team, getting assists, and getting down the line. Intangibles that usually wouldn't show up on the stat sheet or maybe in the history book. It'll solidify, and it'll further the discussion about who's great, who's not, um, what tier do we put this person in, that person in, because all his intangibles now show up on the stat sheet. He was already a stat packer, but to begin with, he can get you shoot 20 and 10 assists, 20 and 15 assists, or 15 and 15, what I'm saying? Very, very minimal turnovers at that. Um, so it only solidifies how we look at guards now, how we address them, how we give them time, and give them the benefit of the doubt when in some things about, hey, what does this person actually do? Was this person a winner? Was this person that good? But now we know because Chris Paul's name has been there, he brings in and ushers in a whole new generation and a whole new style of kind of GOAT talk when it comes to guards and point guards.
Mm, for sure. So obviously, I think I was shocked, but wasn't really too shocked because Devin Booker. I know a lot of people have been comparing him to Kobe Bryant as of late as well too. That was someone he idolized as well too. But he does carry that swagger as far as just his overall energy and his overall work ethic and having that mama mentality. Not the same, nowhere near close defensively. He can always get better defensively, but from an offensive standpoint, I can see why people would say his game mirrors Kobe Bryant as well too. But for someone to go 8-0 in the bubble, and come back as an organization. They, are the second best team in the Western Conference. And for Devin Booker, for this to be his first ever playoff run along with Aiton, and Devin Booker averaged 27, 6, and I think 5, and then Aiton averaged 16 and 12. That just shows you their work ethic, their drive, and also, the effect that Chris Paul has on them as well too. Um, I think DeAndre is going to be a future All Star. Probably moving forward now, he's solidified himself as one of the best bigs in the league as well too. But for
Playing well.
Devin Booker, has he solidified that he's a quote unquote a superstar yet? I know that term kind of gets thrown around a lot, and there's different criterias on what a superstar is. But have you think, given the 8-0 bubble, given Devin Booker's track record and this year as well too in the playoffs, because that's when you really make a name for yourself. Do you think Devin Booker is solidified as a superstar right now?
I would. I would solidify him as a superstar. Um, it's funny because we was going down the line, uh, and we were like, "Yo, like name guys that are superstars in the league," and we had to leave him out. I was talking with some of my AU coaches. We had to leave Devin Booker out because we were like, there's only about, I think it was a discussion about superstars in the league, who and the people that are like really pulling that in. We had to leave Devin Booker out simply because it was already filled. We had to go like LeBron, we had to go Russell Westbrook. There were just so many slots, and we have like we're gonna give 10 to 12 slots of people, and we had to leave Devin Booker out, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? So we just went down the line for that. Maybe we could do one of our segments, and just see how that changes over time. But so that's what happened. But now, as the tides change, as things happen, and it's going to be tough discussions about players that have been great that maybe aren't producing in the same way that are now going to drop off. It's like, oh no, yeah, yes, his name will sell, but is he a superstar coming in with these numbers compared to this guy, right? Because I think we had to like add Luca to the list, and we had to take Devin Booker off. It's like, oh, he's a star, but he's just not a superstar just yet. I think these series, this finals push solidified Devin Booker Devin Booker as a superstar. Great games aside, or games when he's ailing with his nose and stuff like that, where doesn't shoot very well. They still find a way to get it done. So him, his company, bench, Payne, Aiton, Crawford, so on and so forth, help elevate him to that status. But going forward, because of his abilities, what he can do, and because he's reached this far, because we all know the playoffs in the NBA is a totally different game. It's not the regular season NBA. He has been elevated to superstar status, if I do say so myself.
Mm, for sure, for sure. And then, sticking within the confines of these two teams, these two powerhouses that kind of matched up with each other as well too. I want to give my flowers to Paul George. Um, Hell of a comeback season. Obviously we're in the social media era as well too. So, the boy was getting cooked up in the bubble last year. He was notorious for calling himself pandemic P, more so with taking on the challenge of guarding the best of the best as well too, while still giving them buckets as well too. So obviously we know about his rise to superstardom in Indiana, and he's had a little shortcomings as well too. Obviously, last year in the bubble, shot under 40% from the field, and they went on in the second round when they were basically essentially supposed to be that team to get to the finals. They were favorites all year to get to the finals. The overall LeBron James led team, which is crazy, and it
Yep.
kind of came up short in 7 games against the Denver Nuggets as well too. So, you know, this year, being fully healthy, in the off season, getting putting that work in, having that foundation, having a new coach, getting more games, with Kawhi Leonard as well too. That it really, did him his justice, and I think this is probably his second best season he had, but aside from the season when he finished top 3 with MVP when he was on OKC as well too. So great run, amazing run as well too, because like I said, there's always a narrative that he kind of underperforms, he doesn't elevate his game when it matters most, and he completely flipped that script as well too. So I don't want any more pandemic peace slander as well too, and I want people to give him his flowers as well too because he stepped up his shit. You know, he only played 13 games with Kawhi. Obviously, we already know Kawhi. He went down. I think Game 4, he had a knee sprain against the Utah Jazz, and everyone, including myself, thought that it was over. But you know, he stepped up along with some other players, and along with the chess being played by Ty Lue as well too. They everyone stepped up and performed in high fashion as well too. So definitely want to give PG his flowers. Averaged 27 points this playoff run, and it also gave you guys 10 rebounds and 5 assists and shot 44% from the field as well too. So credit to PG.
Yeah.
And if we learn anything, he is a superstar. Um, and you know he is going to be there when the moments matter. And more importantly, I think now, you know, like I said, we can kill that narrative. But now I wouldn't say he can be necessarily the best player on a championship team, but he's definitely a 1B on that team as well too. Any thoughts in regards to PG?
Uh, I think you summed it up pretty well. It takes my mind to you know, what is Kawhi gonna do? I know Kawhi, you know, is closer to home playing in LA, whatever like that. That's kind of what he wanted as compared to, you know, playing in Toronto, which a lot of people say, you know, it's away from my family, it's in a different country, whatever like that. So I can if Kawhi, I think that's from like a destination standpoint, he wants to be there, but I don't know. And we don't really know Kawhi because he keeps everything in the wraps with stuff like that. But if you had to just stir the pot and you said, hey, maybe Kawhi wanted to go, you know, maybe he wants to, you know, figure something out. He doesn't really feeling, you know, the Clippers a little bit. Like, let me find a different organization to play a few more years for, so on and so forth. I think the way PG performed, and the way probably Ty Lue kind of seeing how they came back from the last series. What was it? They were with Dallas, right? So just how Ty Lue coached and how they kind of did it, and kind of being a players coach and figuring stuff out. I think if I'm Kawhi, I say, all right, PG can get it done. And there's a scenario, and this is a situation where if we can keep people that come off the bench and, you know, do what we need them to do, we can definitely compete for championships. So let me not throw this away. I'm in LA. I can't really complain. You know, I have another superstar with me. We'll be good, and possibly this is attractive to any other people that might maybe want to come and support, help out, or be a third option possibly when it comes down to it. And we already have some really good scores. We already have a really good bench. We have a tough team that can compete. So that's where my mind takes it. I just think PG uh, in this playoffs helped himself for years to come. You know, helped himself years to come, and place the organization in a spot where they don't have to scramble and say, "Oh, damn, maybe he's not ready, maybe he's not right." It's like, no, he proved himself. All right, bet now we just got to keep this ball rolling. We have a great coach, as we're about to talk about, in Ty Lue, and that's what it is for PG.
Yeah. And yeah, you kind of already started the conversation because last week there's a narrative by Stephen A. Smith out there saying Kawhi should look to go elsewhere outside the Clippers organization because of a couple things. The low management history, him not always being necessarily available, him not galvanizing the troops and being a vocal leader, and not being a culture starter as well too. So the media just always wants something to talk about as well.
Yeah,
I think what pissed him off the most was because he wasn't on the bench with his team as well too, when he was in the suite with his family. Kawhi just a
yeah,
different cat. I mean, me
yeah,
personally, I would have probably been with the squad just so they can feel my energy as well too. But
yeah.
some people just have different personalities, and some people just move different as well too. I mean, they said that he still had constant conversation with them. He would go to the locker room at halftime, X, Y, and Z. So he was still active with them as well too. But like you said, if we've learned anything, if he because he's going to be a free agent, if we learn anything, if this didn't sell you on signing long term, then I don't know what else could help that case as well too. Like you said,
Uh,
they have a great coach who's proven that he's one of the most elite coaches. He's one of the best game by game strategist. You
Yeah.
have a 1B in Paul George. You have an owner who's willing to spend as much money as possible to make sure that roster is intact, and you have some solid pieces with you. And if that doesn't help, if that doesn't help the case, then I don't really know what to say, and I don't really know where he would go right now as well too. So I personally don't think he's going to go anywhere as well, and I think he's going to sign a long term contract as well too. So that's one thing. Another thing I want to get into, man. Um, I think if Kawhi won't hurt and I'm gonna talk about this a little bit later as well too. But the
It'd be just
Suns,
surefire.
the Suns played. I mean, you have to play who's in front of you, right? The
Yeah.
Suns play the Lakers. LeBron was banged up ankle. AD growing. We already know that situation. Second round, no Jamal Murray as well too. Third round, no Kawhi, no Zubac, no Serge Ibaka as well too. Um, I think if Kawhi played, given the fact that Chris Paul missed the first two games with the COVID protocol, and how close all those games were, I feel like if Kawhi played, they probably would have swept them motherfuckers. Like I think
Oh
they
yeah.
would have swept them, or that shit would have at least won 5 games as well too. You're just losing someone that's giving you over 30 points, over 8 rebounds, over 5 assists, shooting like 57% from the field as well too. Is not only your best offensive player and not only your best playmaker, but also your best defensive player as well too. So if Beverly was giving Devin Booker that much problems, you can share that duty with him, PG, Terrence Mann, and Kawhi. Or if Chris Paul going for 40 that night, game 6 to close it out on Kawhi's watch? Hell no. But I think honestly, like if his knee didn't cave out on him as well too, they would be the ones hoisting that Western Conference Champions Trophy and go to the finals as well too. So if I'm Kawhi, if you want to do what LeBron does, when you just do the 2-year deal where you can opt out 1 year and try to run it back, definitely try to run that shit back as well too. So it's going to be interesting as well too. Another thing I want to talk about, there's also for the past couple years, well, not even past couple years because I'm just only talking about this person, but throughout LeBron's tenure being an NBA player, there's always been a stigma that LeBron is basically the brains behind the operations. LeBron is actually the coach as well too, because he's had so many different coaches. Obviously, he's a great player, but he's had so many different coaches, and he's led them to the finals or led them to deep playoff runs or led them to championships as well too. So I also believed in that stigma as well too, that Coach Lou wasn't a great coach. But if we learn anything this playoff series, Coach Lou is a hell of a motherfucking coach. They
Yeah.
made jokes saying that the Clippers will call him Coach Belichick with him basically standing up and not basically getting no sleep and thinking of different adjustments and different tactics to kind of combat what the other team was doing as well too. Um, through this playoff run, do you think Coach Lou has solidified himself as one of the best coaches in the NBA?
Yeah, I think again, like P. So just a different kind of outcome. I think he has earned himself positions, monies for a year to come if he wants it. And we always think about him with Iverson stepping over him. He was a point guard in the National Basketball
Mm,
Association. You know what I'm saying? Like
yep.
he has knowledge of the game. He has a flair to it. He can command a team, so on and so forth. He played for the Lakers, right? Is that's the photo? He stepped up. He's on the Lakers.
Yeah.
This is a guy that he's been around the league, bro. He can get it done. He's played with the best of them. We just always see that because it's an iconic photo. Allen Iverson changed the culture and the league. But Tyloo, you better respect it. You better respect it. His face sometimes, like just there's always something to joke about with the internet. He's always kind of like has that blank stare, all that stuff like that. He's always like mouth open or whatever like that. But bro, this dude has team competing for championships, coming back from what 3-1 deficits, so on and so forth. Like he's done it. And as much credit I would give to LeBron as being maybe an organizer and maybe having his hand in a pot with a lot of teams, I think it does take a good coach to facilitate that and to keep that balance. And we know Ty Lue is a quote unquote players coach. You're coaching the best player in the world who wants some of the other greatest players with him or wants the team that he knows can help win him a championship with him, that is the best team available. So you got to go out, you have to coach those guys, you have to figure it out. You have to make meetings, you have to try not to piss people off. There's politics involved in that. And yes, LeBron is amazing on what he does and how he affects teams or organizations, so on and so forth, because he seems like he has a formula when he does it. But to play basketball and to do that, that takes a hell of a freaking person. It takes a hell of a person. Because just to coach and to, coach X's and O's and to get everything together, that takes a lot. We see college coaches all the time, like, oh man, this is me recruiting, this is me with practice, this is me with that, this, that, and the third, which is why we're also seeing some of the longer tenure college coaches kind of retiring now because it's a lot more. We're talking about NILs now. We're talking about recruitment. We're talking about people management. We're talking about the transfer portal. We're talking about money. You know what I'm saying? Like, so take that, but also take that into the NBA realm of stuff, bro. It is a totally different monster. So shout out to Ty Lue for being under that fire and being in that position where it was like, oh, maybe he's not a great coach because we all had doubts for a second. But now answering the call and saying, yo, like, no, I really do this. I really does this. Shout out to LeBron, but I really does this. I can make adjustments on the fly. We've been upset about another prominent black coach about saying he doesn't make adjustments because he's instead of coming back from 3-1 deficit, he falls 3-1 deficit. We won't even go into that right now. But this was the time for Ty Lue to again earn his money, remind us who he is, and he did it. So shout out to Coach Lue. You know what I'm saying?
For sure, for sure. And I want to give one more shout out before we get into the recap of Hawks Bucks. Mr. June, Reggie motherfucking Jackson, bro.
That
Probably
boy
had one of the
different.
best as a third option. Probably had one of the best playoff runs that I can remember right
That
now
boy
as well
different.
too. There was also a narrative behind him, like he's not a quote unquote point guard. He's kind of a bonehead X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of shit that just went on with him as well too. So
Yeah.
for Kawhi to go down and they then them and for PG to kind of not PG couldn't do it by himself. It was all by committee, but the main two people I'd have to say number one PG, well obviously number one the coach, number two PG, number three Reggie Jackson as well too. So he had a great run, averaged 18 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, shot over 40% from three, and then 48% from the field as well too. And
He
more
was a bad
importantly,
man.
he was clutch whenever the Clippers were, down. He helped spark that, or whenever they were about to blow their lead within a game, he would be that guy that just neutralizes everything as well too, and just shift that momentum as well too. So I don't know if he's gonna stay with the Clippers. I would love for him to stay as a starting point guard. To play along with Kawhi and PG and the other cats as well too. But I also am in person. If you got to go get your bag, go get your motherfucking bag,
Yeah.
bro. Go get your bag. So I just want to pay him some homage as well too.
To the Knicks.
Moving
No, I'm
on.
playing.
I mean, he
Nah,
could,
it's not.
but
I'm sending everybody
we
to
gonna
the Knicks in
see.
my head this summer, but I doubt it.
Nah,
I mean, they have a decent core. You know what I'm saying?
they just need some more scoring. The defense is there,
Yeah.
but they need some scoring. And obviously, Reggie
Reggie can score, as we've seen, but
you can score
I don't know.
if they, my bad, Reggie can score. So moving on. And sticking to the Hawks and the Bucks recap, damn, it literally felt like a gauntlet match, bro. Just survival of the fittest, right? Both superstars going down. You got Giannis, who had a nasty ass injury, what it seemed like, had a hyperextended knee, and then you had Trey Young. Normally you say it's like the basketball guys working around, but I think Adam Silver got his phone and he was just like do 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 before the game. Hey ref, I want you to basically stand in the area of where Trey Young is and knock him out because we don't want to see from a rating standpoint the Hawks in the finals as well too. So Trey Young suffered a bone bruise. He was able to come back game 6, but at the end of the day, if you place the top tier talent of the Bucks in the big two with Drew Holiday and the Middleton, and then you have Trey Young, who's pretty much banged up. With that core, you kind of see the shift of power as well too. So credit to Coach Bud, credit to the Bucks organization, credit to the Big Three, getting in, and also credit to Nate McMillan, who served as, I believe, the interim coach as well too. So hopefully he's in a
Yeah.
long term future for the Hawks as well too. He has a
I didn't
proven
know he was
track
still
record, no
interim.
matter.
They fired him this season, the other coach this season?
I think so.
I thought Nick McMillan was just full on this season, but that's here
I
and
don't know.
there.
I don't know if they have him as full on, because a lot of people, even like with the TNT crew, they were saying like, what do we do moving forward with Nate McMillan? So I think he actually was the head coach, but I think he's
Yeah.
gonna have like he's gonna be like the free agent of coaches. So they're gonna have to decide: are we gonna throw him the bag? Or is he gonna be in on a long term haul and whatnot as well too? But Hawks, to me, they overachieved, but at the same time, you got to play who's in front of you as well too. You know what I'm saying? They
Hell
took
yeah.
down the revitalized Knicks. They won 7 games with Philadelphia 76ers, which we'll talk about for another day. And they won 6 games, and had Trae Young been healthy, we don't know how things would have panned out as well too.
Yeah.
So they have, from the top down, from management to the coaching staff to the players, they just done a very good job at just executing in general. So for them to take notice that Trae Young is on the rise, and to build around him as soon as possible. You have other organizations who basically just put bullshit around your superstar player, is good, and they have a lot of young talent as well too. So it can only literally get better from here on out as well too. And like I said, I'm happy for the Bucks. But what was your thought on the entirety of the series as well too? And then while you're talking about the recap with that, pardon me, ladies and gentlemen, my laptop is dying, so I'm gonna go grab my charger real quick. But tell me about your thoughts on the Hawks Bucks recap.
Okay, I'll wrap while you're going to do that. So pretty much with the Hawks Bucks recap, I think it was an amazing series. So we just saw some fireworks very, very, very early, and we thought the whole series was kind of going to be like that. We saw Trey doing some wild stuff, like if I'm not mistaken, he was like throwing the lob off the backboard to John Collins, and it was just ridiculous. And we're like, all right, we thought this was going to be the series where for sure the Hawks were going to get stopped in their tracks. It was going to be no chance for them, so on and so forth. And we kind of got robbed by those, by just the what it could have been, had both of the superstars been healthy the whole series. Because I think it could have been a game seven scenario. Because we saw flashes of like, yo, like Trae Young can't be guarded almost. And it just really took, you know, they Milwaukee like got a game I think early to where it's like, oh, like, not early, but they got a game, and it was what, it was game 4 or 5. That game they got, it was kind of like telling, it was like, ooh, this is kind of not going to go the Hawks way. On top of Trey Young eventually, or whenever this happened, kind of getting injured, it was like, damn. But with Trey Young on the floor, it's almost like anything can happen, because 3 pointers and 1 pointers are two totally different things. I'm not 1 pointers, but 2 pointers. 3 pointers and 2 pointers are two totally different things. Definitely, if somebody can fill it up and get a shot off within the first 10 seconds of the shot clock, you're taking your time, swinging around, getting into, boom, come back down, 3 pointer, shoot. It's a freaking, in 1 minute, the team scored 9 point, and maybe you have a 10 point lead, but you scored 2 or 4 points. You know what I'm saying? That's the pace of basketball they were playing with other guys, like what is they calling Kayvon, the Kevin Kidd, and then you have other studs, Lou Williams, and so on and so forth on the Hawks. So I think we were kind of robbed by injuries of this series that could have been kind of a little bit longer. But I think the Bucks ultimately edging them out is kind of what we thought were going to happen anyway. It would have been an interesting Suns and Atlanta kind of playoffs. I think both of those locations would have been like crazy. Seeing
Especially
Atlanta
Atlanta.
for the finals. You know what? Like that's a different podcast entirely. The finals in Atlanta 2021. Everything just opened back up. Atlanta been open, but all the celebrities are here now. I'm sure it probably would have been like, that's Black Hollywood. So we would have seen some stuff, we would have seen who was down there, not just Amigos down there. We seen everybody in Atlanta just down there. And then Phoenix, which is not a bad destination either, so hey, we in Phoenix with it tonight. It would have been a really interesting finals. But now I was listening. into a podcast and it's like, yo, Milwaukee. I'm not going to Milwaukee. Heck no. I hope the Suns win. They're like, I hope the Suns win so I can go between Phoenix and Atlanta and I can be out there getting loose. It's like, yo, nobody's going to visit Milwaukee. But on God, so that's what he's talking about. So but I was like, yeah. But as far as basketball team, maybe with the work that's been put in, the defensive efforts, and just the per capita, like we're about to go into, who was on the team and who can produce, whether it be Middleton, Holiday, and down the line, Antetokounmpo. I think the Bucks, the better team, probably won this one. But like we talked about, Nick McMillan, hopefully coming back, getting him back. He deserves. Trey Young coming back healthy, and down the line with maybe some improvements the Hawks can make, or just solidifying that group. We don't know. We don't know. It's a scary league, man. They did it from that position they were in, which was like what, fifth? They're fifth seed, five seed.
Fifth seed, Knicks with a fourth seed. Knicks had home court advantage.
Yeah, they did that from a fifth seed, and they made not quick work of the Knicks, but they made it look pretty effortless as they got rid of them. Only because the Knicks didn't have as much scoring, and they had some guys that were just first touching the playoffs. So it was like, they were trying to figure it out. Meanwhile, they looked pretty poised this whole playoff run. Um, we'll see what happens, and maybe some shake ups in Philly or different kind of strategies in Philly. Don't even get them past the second round. We don't know. We could, if somebody shoots, who knows? But I think the Bucks edging this one out is good.
It's weird. I'll spend like a minute on that after this as well
What's
too,
up?
because Warren put that
Okay.
on the doc. But man, there's just if we it's a little weird, like just seeing. Obviously, there's a lot of injuries to take into effect as well too. But like just seeing these young motherfuckers just ball out now, we're seeing that slow shift of the old heads slowly
Mm-hmm.
transition out, and the young kids kind of going on a rise as well too. Like I said, we saw Luka, we saw Trey Young, we seen Devin Booker right now as well too. Jokic, all these young cats are literally just stepping their game up as well too. And in a couple years, the KDs, the Kawhis, the LeBrons, the
They'll be
CP3s of the
gone.
world as well too. They're going to be transitioning out, so the league is in good hands as well too. Um,
2.5 years max.
2.5 years max is what we're talking about. LeBron, for real. But yeah, like you said, the Hawks, man, they have a lot of good young talent. You know, they just signed Bogdan, who's still 28. They traded for Clint Capella, I believe, last season. He's 27. Great center for what it's worth with what he has to do, being a rim protector, being, a lob threat as well, too, and a good interior defender as well. John Collins about to be a free agent. I hear he wants to max. He's 23 years old. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Maybe they can do a sign and trade as well, too. Um, and then down the line, you signed Gallinari, who's a good vet. But other than that, you got Kevin Huerter, who shocked me this year. The redhead white dude, 6'7", played great. DeAndre Hunter obviously had the knee problem. He played a little bit for Knicks. He didn't even get to play against Philly, and who knows what he would have done if he would have go up against the Bucks as well too. And Cam Reddish, who I
They didn't even
like
play.
Duke as well too. He gets kind of got tossed into the fire as well too. So
Yeah.
for him to handle that and go out in good fashion, the future is looking bright. You know what I'm saying, with the core pieces, with the
I
Atlanta
think
Hawks
Cam's
as
gonna be a
well too.
beast.
I think so too. I always said with him when I even saw him in Duke as well too. Obviously, he has Zion, he had RJ Barrett, who the number one and number two, but it felt like he never really had his fitting on that
Yeah,
team as well too. But from a skill standpoint, I said like I don't like to compare. I mean, it's natural to compare players, but I can see him be a in the grand scheme of things like a Paul George type of player when it's all said and done, as far as like his frame and what his skill set can become as well too, and whatnot. So I think he's going to be great. It's just going to come down to him if he really wants it. If he wants
yeah.
it, then that should be a nasty ass backcourt moving forward in the future as well too. Um,
But
Before we get into the finals, as well too, Warren kind of brought this up as well. Apparently, there was a trade that went on for Ben Simmons. So basically, with
interesting.
the trade, it was the Sixers turned down Pacers trade offer for Ben Simmons. So basically, the 76ers, I mean, the Indiana Pacers proposed a first round pick of this year's draft, which would be the number 13 pick, with Malcolm Brogdon for Ben Simmons, and they declined that as well too. It's just kind of crazy how Ben Simmons, his what's that word I'm looking for? His what's that
Stop.
word I'm looking for? His stock, yeah, his stock just kind of plummeted in general as well too. Because if you take aside the shooting, he's probably, if not the best
Best
defender, can
defender.
guard
Yeah.
1 through 5,
Yeah.
is a freight train in transition as well too.
A good
Has a
distributor.
high IQ, great distributor. He literally does it all. But at the end of the day, and what I've learned, people always kind of talked about it, but from what I've learned watching so many playoff games this year, you need a guy who can basically score at all 3 levels, from the 3 point line, in the mid range, in the post as well too. For him to
Or at
not
least
be,
draw the defense out of the paint.
yeah, yeah, and for him to not do that, or at least you know be able to shoot a free throw, you got to kind of move on from that. So I don't know where he's gonna go. But I just kind of thought that was a low blow as well too. Like if you're gonna propose a trade like that, motherfucker, you better give me Levert as well too to go with that first round pick and Malcolm Brogdon as well too. I'm not just gonna take, no disrespect to Malcolm Brogdon. He's a pretty damn good point guard, but I don't think he really gets the 76ers over the hump as well too. So we're gonna continue to monitor that situation, because from what Rich Paul said right when the Philadelphia 76ers got eliminated, they're definitely working on trades right now as well too. So hopefully he can go to an environment, that best suits him as well too. And I was making a little joke as well, being that by default, since we're from the DMV area, we look at the Wizards as well too. I was like, yo, win-win situation. Let me get Russ. Let me get Bill. Bill say you want out and you only want to go to 76ers, and trade him and trade Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, for straight up for Russell Westbrook and for Bradley Beal. Their salaries match up as well too. You still keep that veteran presence, and you stay and win now with 76ers, and then you have a veteran leader to go along with Ben Simmons and kind of rebuild that franchise with the Wizards right there. I think that's a good trade in my head. I think that will be fire, and I think the 76ers will be much more formidable as well too. But that's just me playing a
I like it.
hypothetical
I
man
like
as well
it.
too. That's kind
I
of
was
fire, right?
in my head. I was like, they would probably get rid of Russ first because he's a little bit older than Bill. How you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, yeah, at that point, go ahead, Russ, Bill, give me a pick, and then let's build from there with some youth, and
Mm.
we just get hopefully a whole new. I keep saying you gotta get rid of management and coaching, but whole new. So wait, they agreed to part ways. Do the Wizards have a new coach yet already?
They don't have a new coach yet, but they did agree to part ways,
Interesting.
or if you want to say fire, Scott Brooks. Yep.
If I
So,
was them, I'd try to go get Nate McMillan and try to give him the bag.
ooh, yeah, I would definitely give him the bag as well too. But yeah, I
That's
mean,
what I would.
we're gonna see what
Yeah.
happens. Now, the moment everyone's been waiting for, the NBA Finals preview, which is either going to be really good or going to be nasty. Because when I say nasty, Western Conference got all the skilled motherfuckers, and the Eastern Conference, it just be sloppy basketball sometimes as well too. Not to mention that things are kind of up in the air. As far as injuries go as well too. So both teams, managed to claw their way, like I said, to the conference finals as well too. There's just been so many motherfucking injuries that have just been going on as well too. So I made a little list of key injuries. Anthony Davis for the Lakers, LeBron James ankle for the Lakers, Jamal Murray ACL for the Nuggets, Kyrie Irving ankle, James Harden, hamstring. Giannis Antetokounmpo, hyperextended knee. DiVincenzo, I think his calf slash Achilles. Danny Green, his calf. Trey Young, bone bruise. CP3, 2 games because of COVID and his shoulder in the first round versus the Lakers. Donovan Mitchell, ankle. Mike Conley, hamstring. Serge Ibaka, back. Zubac, knee. Kawhi Leonard, knee. Jalen Brown, knee. Kemba Walker, knee. So just so many injuries that kind of just came about as well too. And it's actually pretty sickening as well too. But like I said, you got to play who you got to play. Obviously, both teams benefited off of them being relatively healthy as well too. Hopefully, Giannis can play, because I think this is gonna, if he plays, it's gonna be a great series. And if he doesn't play for the first couple of games, we saw from the last series that Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, based on with the talent that they have, they can at least make it competitive as well too. So hopefully they can sneak one on the road as well too. So these teams, obviously, regular season kind of gets thrown out the door, but you can kind of pull from how to execute from a defensive and an offensive standpoint moving forward as well too. So obviously they're in different conferences, but they played each other two times in the regular season. Obviously, Giannis played, but the Bucks ended up getting the season sweep. I'm sorry, the Phoenix Suns ended up getting the season sweep as well too. So they first played on February 10th. This was before PJ Tucker was acquired. They won 125, 124 in a nail biter, and then April 19th they played another 1 point game in overtime as well too, 128, 127. Giannis damn near averaged 40 points. He scored 47 points one game and 33 points one game, and Devin Booker averaged around 26 points as well too. So it's a big three versus big three. Cp3, who's the point guard, mixed with the young mama on the rise, and Devin Booker, and then you also have DeAndre Ayton, who's been a force on both ends of the floor, going up against Giannis, going up against Middleton, going up against Drew Holiday as well too. So it's going to be a dog fight. I like it as well too because there's so many ways that you can attack it from as well. So I think one of the biggest things that we're going to have to kind of key in on is health first and foremost. If Giannis is healthy, then the series is going to pan out differently. If he can't play, then obviously, like I said, it's going to be a little different as well too. So whoever's the most healthiest, I think is going to be great. But I'm curious to see the X's and O's from Coach Bud
The
versus
coaches.
Coach Monty Williams as well too. What adjustments are they going to make defensively as well? And who's going to have, which role players are going to step up as well too? Because the role players for the Suns have been relatively well. With Cam Johnson, Brooke Lopez bringing back the fountain of youth. Back in the day, he used to average 20 for a couple seasons. He's been playing great. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
interested to see the battle bigs with Brooke Lopez versus DeAndre Ayton. Brooke Lopez, like I said, he's a veteran. He's someone who is one of the best rim protectors, and he's going to be someone who can basically keep DeAndre Ayton away from the basket at times as well too, because he's such a sniper from three. And also, you just overall have size with the Bucks as well too. I mean, I think the average size for them starting lineup is what 6'6", 6'7" as well
Hell yeah.
too, going up against the Suns as well too. So that's gonna be interesting as well too. You got a dog in Drew Holiday, who is one of the best two-way players. Whenever you hear interviews, people always say he's probably the most underrated player as well too. Bev had the responsibility of guarding Devin Booker, so now I'm thinking like Chris
Drew
Paul,
Holiday.
you one of the best, but Drew Holiday going to be the one that's probably going to be your primary defender, while you're going to have Middleton and a little bit of PJ Tucker and other players kind of having a combined effort to kind of contain Devin Booker as well too, along with Giannis there. So it's going to be pretty interesting. But what are your thoughts on this finals? And then also as well too, I didn't really realize it until now. I just had an epiphany. Both of these teams are small market teams. So
Yeah.
that just speaks volumes to management from the top down on if you put the right people in the right position, then your team can be successful moving forward as well too. So I didn't even realize it's probably gonna be one of the first times in a while where it's a non-small market team. Both teams from respective conferences are non-small market teams, kind of competing for a championship as well too. You have the
It's
Bucks,
good.
who I think haven't won since the '70s, and then you have the Suns, who they haven't been to the finals since the '90s as well too. So I think it's good for not only small markets, but it's just good for it's good to see something new as well too. But from an X and an O standpoint, man, what are the keys to both teams winning? And then I guess after you're done, discussing your take on everything, who do you have winning the series and why?
Okay. I think it's gonna come down to X's and O's. A lot. I think there's gonna be some injuries that do affect it. I don't think Giannis is 100%. Or will be 100%. I mean, knee hyperextension and his knee's
Yeah,
probably
how
bigger
how
than
is
both
how
of
are
us.
knee hyper extensions? Do you think there's a chance he's actually going to come back at the series? I feel like
I
he
think he'll
got the
come back
rehab
not at full
already,
strength.
not at full strength, but you think he's going to come
Yeah,
back by like what,
yeah.
game two, game three, home
Game
game?
two or game three. Game two or game three. Yeah, I think game two or game three. Um, I think oof, defensive matchups are going to be big. The Suns got to contain, but we also know the Suns that they'll maybe go into a zone sometimes and try to contain people. I think we'll see more man principles if Giannis is not on the court, but they probably have taken a little bit from that Miami Heat zone. They're probably watching a lot of film on Miami Heat last year. Yeah, it's probably just every day like, hey, Miami Heat, like this is how they did it. Boom, boom, boom. They already have a team that kind of plays like them with distributing the ball. They have, a scorer that's relentless. They have a point guard that's relentless too. I think they have might a little bit more firepower than the Heat last year when it came to that. So move it around a little bit of a healthier team than maybe they did when Dragic went down. It's kind of told it took on Jimmy and the Butler. So it's going to be a lot of relation to that and how can we get this team out the way. And then you start getting to your guys that aren't your superstars, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe they don't have that, they're not the front page kind of person on it. So, again, your Cunnington, your PJ Tucker, who, defensively, I think the Bucks really can possibly shut this team down. Again, their length going forward, but the efficiency of the Suns and their calling card again has been defense. It's gonna be one of those things where it might be a night where you don't know who's gonna pull it out. The Suns are shooting well, the bench is playing well. It could be a heavy task for them. And Giannis is not playing. I mean, it could be a heavy task for the Bucks, and Giannis is not playing. Or we see, the Bucks with Giannis or the Bucks without Giannis, but just playing well. Chris Middleton, uh, Drew Holiday, and so on and so forth. It can sway either way. So it's going to be about adjustments from quarter to quarter, adjustments from first half to second half, adjustments from game to game, seeing the looks. So right now, the first game is always a chess match. You kind of just throw stuff out there, see what happens, see if the scouting report is real. And then the second, the next, 3 games after that are really the real meat and potatoes of the series, barring there's no injuries or anything like that. So I'm really excited about this. If I have to get a prediction to what you're asking for, I'm gonna say Giannis doesn't play the first 2 games. They might split them, or in the perfect world for the Suns, they get him out the way. Comes back, um, and we might get 1 or 2 games there, but I think they fight it out. I'm gonna be bold and say the Suns in 6.
Mm, that's crazy because I'm literally going back and forth, kind of trying to think who I want to go with. I'll say if one thing's been constant is health prevails. So just like you, because there's still a little bit of uncertainty with Giannis and the hyperextended knee. I don't know how severe it is as well too, but that's something to definitely keep in mind. And then just the run that the Suns have been able to go on. Um, and I feel like Chris Paul just at that moment. I've been waiting for 16 years, motherfucker. Like, ain't nobody gonna say shit about me. I'm about to go out
Yeah,
and handle my fucking business.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
I got the Suns winning in 6 as well too. I think Coach Monty is gonna come up with a game plan, and I think he's gonna be able to execute over Coach Bud. And I think Chris Paul is going to be able to control the pace of the game as well too. And I think the role players like I said, like a Cam Johnson, like a Mikal Bridges, a Dario Saric, um, and who's the other one? Who's the other guy? Jay Crowder. I think they're going
yeah.
to
Jay
actually
Crowder,
step up as well too.
who's been
Um,
playing crazy.
yeah, I think they're going to step up as well too. And with Drew and with Middleton, they played well when it mattered, right? But obviously it was the
Mhm.
Hawks team, who are also defensive minded as well too. But I just feel like I think I have more faith in Chris Paul, Aiton, and Booker relatively playing the same throughout a 7 game series as opposed to a Middleton and opposed to Drew Holiday. I mean, Drew Holiday knows now that he has to be more aggressive, which I think he's going to continue to be more aggressive. But I think Middleton is kind of like that wild card where we don't necessarily know what we're going to get out of him as well too. So it's going to be interesting to see. But
Yeah,
I really am excited about. I was excited about the PJ Tucker versus KD matchup. I'm ready to see PJ Tucker versus Devin Booker because if Beverly can give you problems like that, then we're gonna see what's gonna happen as well too. And
yeah. PJ's
you
a
know,
dog.
PJ's a dog, and both from both sides, both of them haven't really. No one's really been to the finals like that. I'm kind of trying to think. Aside from Jay Crowder, no one's been to the finals as well too. So I'm sure we're gonna see some nerves. The first game as well too. Like you said, the first game gonna kind of be a feel for. But for me, I'm not gonna necessarily say that's when it begins. it's only going to begin if the road team steals that game. If the Bucks
Okay.
can
Okay.
somehow find a way to manage to split that, then I think Giannis was going to come back game three. Now, if the
Gotcha.
Bucks lose that first game, I think they're going to have a sense of urgency and be like, all right, Giannis,
Can
let's
you
fucking
play?
go.
Yeah.
We need it right
Yeah.
now as well too. If Giannis can be at least, I don't see. I
75.
don't know what. I don't know how the knee injury is going to work because with him, he
He's
goes
downhill.
downhill. So I don't know how that
Yeah.
knee is going to affect him. If he is 90% of what he is, and there's no matchup for him, because Aiton's going to have to decide, am I going to try to take on this responsibility of guarding Giannis, or am I going to try to guard Lopez? Because if you go with Giannis route, Lopez still can get it, can get that shit done inside out as well too,
Mhm.
in the post. So it's just going to be a lot of different, like you said, different X's and O's that are going to have to kind of be executed. But like I said, the biggest wild card is probably Giannis not being fully healthy, and with his style of play, I don't know if that's going to work.
I,
With it
I think
having
the
to the knee
philosophy.
injury.
I think philosophy, if I had anything to do with it, would be all right. If he's back, whether he's not back or not, let Giannis get his points. Cool. We're gonna guard Lopez definitely, and we're gonna contain Middleton if we can. You know what I'm saying? Giannis can do whatever he needs to do. He can have 50, whatever like that. But we're gonna try to contain Middleton, who is maybe their best closer from an
Yeah.
overall standpoint, and we're gonna make sure Lopez doesn't hurt us too bad. Giannis, healthy, not healthy, whatever like that. If we have to adjust it because he's just gonna be a surefire way to beat us coming down the stretch. Maybe in the fourth quarter we'll change it up defensively, but he can have 40. He can have 40 a game, but Lopez is not gonna get loose on us, and Chris Middleton cannot get hot to where he can cook us coming down the stretch.
hmm And a couple of things I want to bring up as well too. We're in a narrative driven, league, but whose legacy you think is on the line the most? Is it Chris Paul because of year 16? And he's on the downward slope, right? Like I said earlier, all these players that we grew up watching are slowly exiting the NBA, and these young guys are kind of paving the way and kind of moving forward, moving on up. Or is it Giannis who is probably the only player that I can think of who doesn't have a ring yet. That's been a two-time MVP and Defensive Player of the Year as well too. And there's always been a narrative behind him that if you can't kind of quote unquote score on all three levels, you can't be necessarily the best player on a championship team. And he's kind of proving that you can write new rules. You can essentially potentially win a championship that way as well too. So who do you put most of the pressure on?
I put on CP3. He's had a career long. We've seen his shortcomings in the
I,
conference finals and all different situations and scenarios. We've seen things happen to him even before that would maybe set him up to be in a conference championship final with Kobe Bryant and so on and so forth. That just didn't pan out because of whatever powers that be. So I think this is a hardest thing for him. And if you start talking about narratives and their odds of that, it's going to be paid a lot better, a lot more, I would say a lot more well, but whatever, gooder. But it's going to pay a lot better to see him hoisting the trophy up at the end of the series than maybe a young Giannis who could probably be in the run to get it next year. We're gonna stay on a small market tip, or I think Giannis might be 2 or 3 years away from his first championship. I think Chris Paul probably gets it this time. If we had to talk about the narrative solely, the narrative
so the
speaks. So
narrative.
hey, yeah.
Okay, cool. And then my last thing for you before we end things for episode 112. And so going on both sides, who do you think, obviously, if the respective team wins, who's most likely to get Finals MVP from the Suns? Who's most likely to get the Finals MVP from the Bucks?
Chris Paul, and with injuries in mind, Middleton. No
That's
injuries.
so
Giannis.
nasty. That's so
Yeah,
nasty.
yeah, yeah.
um, uh, yeah, like you said, there's so much uncertainty with Giannis that I really don't know. I thought you were gonna say Giannis because my answer is gonna be Middleton of all people.
Yeah.
But yeah, they kind of go as Middleton goes as well too. Because like you said, you
Hey,
already know what you're gonna get out of Giannis. From a consistent standpoint, you know you're gonna get at Giannis. You know you're gonna get at Drew Holiday. But the wild card is Middleton, and normally when Middleton cooks, they are damn near unbeatable team. So because of the injuries, I'm gonna go Middleton.
Okay.
And I think they're just gonna throw a lot of bodies at Devin Booker and kind of wear him out. Even though I think the game plan should be to try to take the ball out of Chris Paul hands as much as possible. But like you said, the basketball guys has set this shit up for Chris Paul as well too.
Yeah.
It'll be kind of like one of those things where we know Devin Booker is on his way to whether you want to call him a superstar or not. That's completely up to you. But it's gonna kind of be like one of those things when Kobe won his first couple championships. Shaq was the guy that won those Finals MVP. So I can see where it's like Chris Paul. Now it's like, all right, let me give you the keys, and we see Devin Booker
Mm-hmm.
moving forward. But we could completely be wrong. Drew Holiday could just have his hands, Chris Paul
Yeah.
could have his hands full with Drew Holiday. So I don't know, but if I had to choose, I agree with you. From the Eastern Conference, from the Bucks, I got Chris Middleton, and then from the Western Conference with the Suns, I got the point guard CP3 as well too.
All
Any
that.
last closing remarks for episode 112?
Shout out to the homies, the family. Shout out to Marie and Chad. Just got married. And again, real love, real just seeing it organically kind of happen. So I have to give a shout out to them. They brought a lot of people together. And they did so much for so many people. So we want to show them love right here, right now, and to see again the construct of wedding and love is what you make it. Who you love, how you love, whatever like that. Who cares? Just do it. And if anybody has to say about it, definitely from a corporate or kind of a you can only do this kind of standpoint. Nah, forget that. Do what you're gonna do, and let's all work together as a being. One people, one community, and just coming together because it's wild out here. It's really wild out here, and let's not focus on that. Let's focus on how we can big up each other and go forward as long as it's not detrimental to others. Let's love how you want to love. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. We came up for June, Pride Month, all that good stuff. Like really, 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 really do what you got to do, and less about that for them. It's just seeing people to be who they are. Like these are two of the most loving people I know. Definitely. My sister Chad and her new bride. What I'm saying, Maria. It's like yo, like just that union within itself. So whether they were together or not, these would be two of the most solid people. And it's fact that they could come together and make a solid union and go on, so on and so forth. Like, why not? You know what I'm saying? Why is that in years past such a thing, a topic of contention? You know what I'm saying? Nah, and we break that down to get to different routes, whether the color of your skin, whether your background, whether who you decide to be today. You know what I'm saying? As long as we can come together and do what we choose to do and in a safe and healthy way, uplifting each other. Let's do it and let's keep moving forward. So that's my take.
Spoken words always so motherfucking fire, man. So much fire. Nothing really else to say. I agree with everything as well too. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was the return of Traded XXIV. This is episode 112 of the Seezus Show. Make sure to subscribe on all forms of social media at the Seezus Show, at Sir Seezus, at Traded XXIV. We out.
Peace.